end. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around, we're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging. And to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round 5 of the Braking Bad GT3 right here on the beautiful circuit of Montreal. We are in for an absolute treat around this Canadian circuit. It is going to be a mad one. 14 turns, and with surface temperature 26 degrees, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, this 2.6 kilometer is going to be the battleground for our round 5 out of 12. And with everything going on, drivers looking to step up the mark. My name is Stephen Koenig, joining me on the mic and pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. Sega Bakshi. Sega, welcome to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Great place to be. Great place to go racing on the banks of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. It's an island of paradise for racing. Built on the Isle of Notre Dame, the man-made island was constructed using, well, recycled material from the late St. Lawrence Seaway and Montreal Metro system. Fastest lap around here, well, that'll be a 1:13.0 set by Valerie Bottas in an AMG. During the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix, but I don't think we'll quite see speeds that high, Stephen.
Now, haven't got the power to weight ratio to do it, but what we have been seeing in practice is drivers pushing the limit and landing up spinning or even catching the champion's wall. It's round 5 here at Gilles Villeneuve as we said farewell to Algarve last week, and next week we head to Road America. The championship is heating up in all 3 classes, Pro, Pro-Am and Am. We'll be looking to fight it out for the top, and we cannot forget the team championship, looking to really stay at the sharp end of the field. Odyssey Motorsport looking quite positive here at Montreal, looking to stay at the sharp end of the field. That being said, though, we have to touch on to the little fact. Corey Jones, so far undefeated. 4 out of 4 races. Will this be the time he loses that little bit of drive and Clancy Garvin will be able to close up the gap? But if that's not to be the case, first place, who was at first place was a Pro-Am driver, Joe Antwi, returns back to the field. The Canadian back on home soil, looking to try and take the march up to the front. A 134.8 said by George Reynolds at the moment as he steps on the gas, looking to push himself that little bit further up the order. I've got to say, I'm looking forward to this, Sega. It's going to be an interesting battle, but for Joe Antwi, it's going to be all about pride for the Canadian.
It will be about pride and a little bit more than that as he cooks it coming into the chicane. He will try to get it dialed in for the final 2 minutes of the session. To try to fight with George Reynolds would be a nice thing to do. A couple of pair of Corvettes here on Canadian soil going wheel to wheel. They're separated by 0.6 of a second now, but I feel like Joe Antwi can probably stitch together a little bit more pace in the final few moments of the session.
With that being said, we also still have our pros and faster the Pro-Ams to come out onto the track and show what they can do here tonight. Also keep an eye on Mark Stewart, been incredibly quick in practice. He's hoping to really bring that McLaren to the sharp end of the field. I've got to say, looking forward to Zachary Clemens. The Honda, or the Acura NSX, is an absolute beast around the circuit. Does also provide a little bit of assistance with its tires, doesn't chow them up as much, but also just moves forward the whole time. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he can be able to move that up. Kobe Brooks will also be looking to take the fight up to the sharp end of the field. As we on board with Joe at the moment as he around. Oof, a little clip against the wall on the right hand side, definitely not going to help his chances out there. A little bit of understeer starting to filter in as he's down through the gears into second gear, through the long left-hander, hook it to the right in first, stand on the power and just let it swing out underneath you. It's a fixed setup that these drivers are on, looking to make it work here tonight, and these drivers are hoping to really get a solid one. But with the walls of Montreal being incredibly close, I don't think that many people are going to be walking away with the fast repair that they're able to utilize going to be still at the end of the race. I think every driver is going to at least use it to clear up any minor damage that they would have been picking up on the circuit. However, George Reynolds does hold the top of the leaderboard. Joe into second place, Mark Stewart in third, Zachary Clements, James Longford, along with Kobe Brooks, holds on to your top six. Charles Shanks finds himself in 7th with Justin Welsh. Owen Huffington in 9th. 10th is Jesse Chase with Russell Lane holding on to 11th position. Coming up towards Champions Wall and just keeping himself all together out there. Joe will be crossing the line, unfortunately not improving on his time and looking at that third place. But we should be now releasing our pro drivers, and it's going to be an interesting one because Corey Jones wasn't the quickest in practice. He was still trying to find a little bit of muscle around the track and see if he can bring the Mustang a bit more forward. So it's going to be an interesting one. Plus, we've also got the brothers returning, Jose Sierra and Javi Sierra, head back onto the circuit after taking a small hiatus last week. Javi will be more than happy to see Jose going and fighting out to really move through the order. So, with that being said, Sega, if you had to think about the championship, you have to think about the drivers returning. What is your idea for the entire fight for Montreal?
Now, you got me thinking about the keys to the race and what I would consider them to be successful here. I think key number one is to manage the tire taps. Although this is not a Spa-esque circuit, this track definitely has some Spa-esque like flavor to it. Some very long straightaways that will cool down the tires, some heavy braking zones that will demand a lot, and then you have some mid-speed corners as well. Throw that all together and you're just asking for the tires to be heated up and cooled down repeatedly over the course of a lap, and I'm not sure the best way to deal with situations like that. So managing the tire temps is going to be key number one, and that'll all come into the way that the setup is dialed in. And though you mentioned we are on fixed setups, that leaves the drivers to control their left and right foot, left foot being the brake pedal of course, and right foot being the loud pedal, and how they want to modulate the brake application, the throttle to get the car rotated. So it will be about controlling the tire temps, controlling their feet application, and then also thinking about this in a long championship stance as well. We're only into round 5 of 12. We have a long way left to go. You have to think in terms of championships, not in terms of stints. With 0 fast repairs available for the drivers to consume throughout these events, one mistake could end your championship run completely.
Things to take a look at. Corey Jones holds on to the lead of the championship for the Pro with Clancy Garvin in second. Javi Sierra holds on to third. For our GT3 Pro, and it's Oliver Brooks, Mark Stewart, and Carl Dershin who hold on to the top 3. And for our GT3 AM, it's Zachary Clements, Nicholas Lance Paul, and Owen Huffington holding on to the pack. Now, Clancy Garvin finds himself in 8th position at the moment with LaShawn Delworth into 9th. Russell Lane holds on to that 13th, but Corey Jones rockets up into 2nd position. Kurt Moss moves himself up into 5th. as those times start to ratchet in at the moment. Everyone trying to find that little bit of pace. Jose Sierra, Oliver Brooks, Javi Sierra, Jamie MacArthur, Lance Campbell, and Jason Holland yet to find a time to put on the board, as Jamie MacArthur just had to move into that 13th spot.
Just moving up into that 13th spot for now for Jamie MacArthur. But I'm keeping my eyes peeled on the OMTV crew. I mean, what can't LaShawn Young-Dilworth do? It's just absolutely insane. Earlier this morning, he was competing in a 2.24-hour endurance event. And now he switched gears into the GT3 cars. Earlier in the week, the man was driving GR86s, GT3s, and MX5s for the West Coast Sim Racing Organization. This just continually impresses me that drivers are able to switch gears so quickly from simulator to simulator, or from machine to machine, track to track, and just produce rapid lap times.
Absolutely incredible stuff, and also fighting out for the leaders in the team championship. Oliver Brooks and Clancy Garvin will be making sure they can hold Odyssey Motorsport Team 1 at the top of the leaderboard, while Kobe Brooks and LaShawn Young-Dilworth hold on to 3rd in the team champion. Unfortunately, got it all out of shape there. Corey Jones leads the top, with George Reynolds holding on 2nd. Kurt Moss and Lance Campbell find themselves at 3rd and 4th. Mark Stewart down into 5th place, with LaShawn holding on to 6th. Jamie MacArthur improves up to 13th as we've seen those times ratchet up. Javi Sierra still battling to get a solid lap time on the board. Russell Lane as well, just down in 20th, with Jason Holland, who's going to be starting at the back of the pack. But we are keeping an eye on Lance Campbell, the Canadian driver, out in the Mercedes. Home turf, home soil. It's all about the pride here at Montreal, and it's going to be a big run here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The Mercedes AMG GT3 is an absolute monster in a straight line, and great rotation due to how the nature of the car is built. Very centralized engine. You might think it's very nose heavy, but the engine's actually moving quite far back in towards the cockpit, and it gets a little bit loose on the rear, giving you more of a Porsche steering feel that will help out through the hairpin. So as Lance clears the hairpin, he now guns it down the long straightaway, up through the gears, keeping your foot firmly in it the whole way through. You don't want to back off. You want to keep it all going. It is rather flat. You want to aim for the left-hand side just to eye out the opening, and brake as hard as you can, down to 2nd gear, kick over the first curve, kick over the 2nd, bring it right towards the champion's wall, and get back onto the throttle. Lance hoping that this is going to be a good lap for him as he comes barreling to the line. 5th place in class. Is it going to be enough to pick him up out of 6th overall? Not quite to be the case. Jose Sierra holds on to 5th in overall standing with a 135.12, where Lance was 135.22. Absolutely incredible driving as Kurt Moss out in the Ford Mustang. We've got to say, Kurt had a stellar run last week, and he's now trying to make up a bit of time here. Algarve worked a little bit for him, but also had a bit of a negative run with the rear getting kicked out and landing up off into the dirt. He's hoping to try and recoup some points and fight his way through. At the moment, trying everything to move up through the entirety of the race. Javi Sierra in the McLaren is also going to be a key part to keep an eye out for. 3rd in the championship. The last thing he wants to do is fall out of favor, and will be trying to hold on to every little bit he can, because Lance Campbell's 4th in the championship for the pros. Javi Sierra finds himself at the moment trying to make up that little bit of time and see if he can really go and push forward as they come down the long straightaway hard onto the brakes and really kick it through. You also keep an eye on that pit lane come the race, because when you're going in, it's so easy to speed through the pit lane. You're coming off that high-speed straight and you're having to climb onto the anchors to get it done. Kurt Moss up into 2nd place on a solid run, as Corey Jones gets a 133.9. Kurt got a 134.5. And there is Mr. Jones at the moment, and getting an absolute close encounter with not only the T-Rex behind it, but with the walls of Montreal. It is absolutely about trying to get this car around. You can see he's having to really toss it through the corners. That little bit of understeer coming into play as he's pushing harder and harder. And Sega, this is going to be an interesting one for each of the drivers. We haven't seen much in terms of tire stops, and I don't think we're going to see it here at Montreal, but definitely changes in brake bias throughout the race just to try and help get a little bit of an easier time as the tires wear out. The fronts take an absolute beating around the circuit as you do put a lot of your braking pressure to the nose, try and slow it down as fast as possible, get the rear to come out underneath you and create a little bit of rear steer out on the circuit through some of the tighter parts of the circuit, especially for those in the Ford Mustang, the Mercedes, and the McLarens also have that similar problem. Twist it to the front just to get yourself sorted out. You've got to be careful running the curbs like that because it can land up with a big bite against the wall, and something we have seen time and time again, Sega.
Yes, indeed, but it won't be the detriment of Corey Jones this time around. It will go his way. 1:33.796, a new pole position time for the entire field. The benchmark has been set during the final seconds of the session.
Solid run as we do see MacArthur in the Maxim Motorsports Porsche coming across the line and trying to keep it going. Currently 14th overall with a quickest lap time of 1:35.92 on that last lap. However, qualifying is done, dusted, and will be just a couple of cars coming up to the wire to see what they can do. Sean Young-Dilworth in 4th, Javi Sierra in 8th, Oliver Brooks in 9th, Jamie MacArthur in 14th, Russell Lane down in 20th, and unfortunately Jason Holland will find himself at the back of the pack as we do see Moss trying to improve right at the last out on the circuit, down to a 1:34.5 on that previous lap. Just couldn't quite work it out. Young Dilworth now out on circuit for the Odyssey Motorsports, trying to bring the championship in favor for the sister team, and will be looking to try and move up through the order. Turn 3 Esports holds on to that second place, currently on 969 points, with Carl Smith and Carl Dersham holding on to that run. But it's going to be the technically gifted Odyssey Motorsports in third place that wants to close up to Oliver Brooks and Clancy Garvin, who hold on to the gold for the team. It's a stellar run from each of the drivers trying to move up. But the question comes down. 21 cars here at Gilles Villeneuve. Turn 1 incredibly difficult to try and get right. And it's going to be one fell swoop. It is round 5 of the championship. There's still a bit of time to go, but this is the crucial stages where you've got to put up or shut up. You've got to make sure that you stay further up the order. You've got to score every point you can. And around the beautiful sights and sounds of Montreal, here at Gilles Villeneuve, a legendary circuit that has hosted Formula 1, SBK. It's hosted GT racing. It has been a staple of an incredible circuit, but now finds itself with one major race, and that is the Braking Bad GT3 Championship, round 5, where you're going to have some of the best in the world slug it out. You've got the Canadians coming out in force to ensure that they can take the fight to the sharp end of the field, and ultimately, it's going to be a battle amongst nations as we get ready to get underway. So I can't wait to see this. But with that being said, we got our grid coming up.
We sure do. Let's go ahead and take a look at that starting order.
Corey Jones will be taking that pole position with Kurt Moss in second place. Moving on to row 2, it's going to be Sean Young-Dilworth and George Reynolds. Row 3 will consist of Jose Sierra and Clancy Garvin in 6th. 7th is Lance Campbell with Javi Sierra tailing his brother in 8th position. Moving on, 9th is Oliver Brooks and Mark Stewart. Hold on to your top 10. Moving on to row 6, it's Joe Twum Antwi with Zachary Clements fighting out in 12th position. Row 7 will have James Longevin and Jamie MacArthur, the Maxim Motorsport, looking to try and get a solid run. But it's row 8 where we're getting a little bit more interesting. Kobe Brooks and Charles Shanks have been fighting out in practice, will find themselves side by side here on the grid. Justin Welsh and Owen Huffington in 17th and 18th position as we head down to row 10. Jesse Chase and Jason Holland. Rounding out the pack is going to be 21st position, Russell Lane, who wasn't able to get a time out on board and will be fighting through the pack. This is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a great one, and with a short formation, the drivers are going to have to maximize as much heat into the tires and brakes as possible to get themselves ready to rock and roll around this magnificent circuit, and we'll keep a very close eye on who can move forward. Right behind our Porsche safety car, our iRacing safety car, been around for generations, now gets to see the future generations. Corey Jones and Kurt Moss fighting out on that top spot. Two big behemoths looking to hold the charge. Both Ford Mustangs will need to do everything possible to hold George Reynolds and LaShawn Dilworth holding on right behind them. Jose Sierra has got the advantage with Javi Sierra going and backing him up. The two teammates will look to try and move forward together and also try and open up a little bit of room. This is going to be an interesting one around the hairpin. As nerves start to come on in, you start to get a little bit of a jitter on the hand, you take a deep breath, you cast your eyes forward, and you get ready to go. Kurt Moss in second place looks to try and make it a solid one. But who's going to be first off the throttle? Who's going to be the first one to get the charge? Who will be the first one into turn one? And with a huge possibility of a major concertina, who can keep themselves out of trouble, keep the nose clean, and focus on getting things going. It's not going to be single file racing. This is going to be door to door, nose to tail, eyes forward, and everyone looking to start on a stellar run as the safety car peels off into the pits. It's around the final two corners, staring down to the line. Corey Jones looking to get the jump. Lights on, lights on, lights on. Kurt Moss a little back. The concertina's starting to get a bit rapid there, and it's just wait, and away we go racing. A beautiful start coming in from the Ferrari at the back. And that is LaShawn, who's got a solid run. Jose Sierra nails it down the inside. The 73 of Clancy Garvin got the best run through it all. I mean, that is exactly what we love to see, Sega.
Absolutely great start there from LYD. Coming down into the following corner, he keeps it neat and tidy with Kurt Moss, a fellow countryman, and he's gonna have to answer to fellow calls of his nation. If they both end up on the podium, if they both end up in the stewards room, that could go the other way for that conversation, but they make through it pretty cleanly for the most part. LYD making it all the way up into third. Clancy Garvin, Lance Campbell, Jose Sierra, George Reynolds. And where did Javi Sierra end up? Javi Sierra tumbles all the way down to 8th place overall.
Getting a bit caught out in the concertina effect, but it was Jose Sierra that had nearly a close call into the side of Lance Campbell after Clancy Garvin got a bit of full of it as well. With Lance Campbell looking to try and drag race like Sean Dilworth. Clancy Garvin and Lance Campbell are busy drag racing. Jamie MacArthur trying to move up through the order in the Porsche. You can see just trying to figure out where he can go against Joe and Tweed, moving left to right, trying to figure out where can he get that pass done and dusted. But Joe was also looking to go on the attack as Mark Stewart, but it's just right against the wall, sharing a bit of paint out there. Everyone trying to push that a little bit harder, but it is going to be a tough fight as Oliver Brooks trying to move on forward and see if he can try move up the order. Kobe Brooks going and holding on to the back of Zachary Clemens, who has got Jamie MacArthur just in front. Jamie hoping that he can get the run on Joe. Unfortunately, that's going to be late braking. Not going to be the opportunities. Needs to focus on the exits here, but is under huge amount of threat. A big look down the inside. Joe got caught out on that one. Loses not only one, but going to lose out three as Kobe Brooks puts his nose forward. The Ferrari's going to get the advantage to the right-hander. Keeps it nice and tight. Goes and keeps his foot deep in it. As Charles Shanks sees them just ahead out there in the McLaren. Kobe eventually yields for the fight. But for Joe, opened up the door, had to step through, and one trying to join the party. Makes things a little bit more difficult as Kobe now trying to eye out, possibly going around the outside into the hairpin, late on the anchors as Joe really tries to sink it in deep, slows it down on the apex, forcing Kobe to come off and really lose a bit of time there off cam and having to utilize the slipstream. This is where the nightmare begins because you're punching a hole in the air for the competition, and Joe knows that. He needs to try and line himself up to protect heading into the next two corners, to really try and slow the likes of Kobe Brooks down. And Kobe, after having a phenomenal race, landing up with just bad luck last week, he's looking to really make a solid charge all the way through. Zachary Clemens out there, who leads out for our AM class in the championship, finds himself yet again leading out the charge in GT3 AM. Justin Welsh a little bit further down the order from where he wanted to be. Justin had a great start but got held up in the concertina and just couldn't find a way to get past. Now just keeping it on going, trying to keep that car as clean as possible and just focus out on the lap times. This is where it's all about making sure you're hitting it right with your deltas. Try and focus on a solid charge through and through as Lance Campbell just ahead of Clancy Gavin. The two of them had a phenomenal fight a little bit early on, and it looks like it's going to carry on once again. Side by side they go, but don't count out Jose Sierra just as yet. He's keeping his nose forward to see which of the two are going to have a fight, as it's a big look for Clancy going around the outside. Lance Campbell goes and makes life a little bit more difficult, takes the position back over the curbing he goes, and Jose Sierra immediately puts his nose forward. He's going to try and drag race the two Ferraris side by side. Lance stuck to the inside trying to guard the line, and all that he's done is he's fouled up Clancy. He then switches to the outside. Jose loses out a little bit of time, but Clancy unfortunately dropping back a position, got boxed in and had to figure out what's going to be the next charge on the way through. Absolutely mental through turn one, heading into turn two, late on the brakes. Jose trying everything he can to move on forward, but Lance is making life a little bit more difficult, and that's brought George Reynolds in for a bit of company, and Harvey Sierra as well. The train's starting to get bigger and bigger for that fourth place.
Things starting to slinky all together now as the drivers battle on the racing circuit. The lap times start to come, well, down a little bit. Oh, look at the big loose moment that the 73 of Clancy Garvin just had. Talking about catching something in your trousers, that'll definitely cause one. And it looks like George Reynolds catching after this battle pack won't be too pleased with it. Javi Sierra in tow is going to want to leapfrog George Reynolds quickly and sooner rather than later. Take a look, here's Oliver Brooks as well, chasing down his opponent, George Reynolds, in the same category, and he's only separated by about 2 seconds.
Don't count out Mark Stewart, who holds on for third place in the Pro-Am, utilizing that toe of Oliver Brooks, trying to see if he can just draw in a little bit closer, see if he can get that pass done and dusted. The more the fight out on the circuit, the slower the grids go, and each of these drivers haven't got a lot of place to work with. It is an absolutely mental circuit to try and move forward on, but also a critical mistake can land you up in two ways: down the field or in the wall. There's no forgiveness around this track, and Lance slowing the train down properly on the apex, and that went and forced the likes of Jose Sierra a little further down from where he wants to be. He's trying to keep it tucked up underneath that rear diffuser, but just not having an easy time out there. Immediately, Oliver Brooks trying to see if he can stay in for the fight. And so Clancy Galvin in the Ferrari just behind Jose Sierra as Lance Campbell flat onto the gas, really bringing it up through the revs, just doing everything he can to try and stay alive in that 4th position. Jose Sierra, every time he gets a drive out of the corner, he just hasn't got the room to get that Ferrari underneath that Mercedes AMG GT3 and see if he can really try and push a way forward. However, that every time he strikes, he's allowing Clancy to get a little bit closer. Mark Stewart now in the tow, yet again going and putting the pressure onto Oliver Brooks, but not making any major attacks. He's just waiting it out. He knows that there's a little bit of space between himself and Joe. He's going to just keep it in a solid drive and wait for the mistakes to start filtering in. As Oliver Brooks did run out a little bit wide, he will carry the straight line speed down the short straight. Mark will just keep in the tow. Joe Twam Antwi will find a way to see if he can get past Jamie MacArthur, who's closing up to these two, and we'll see if he can try and throw his hat into the ring as well to move on up into 3rd place. He needs to get past Mark Stewart. Mark looks to the inside, heading into turn 1. It's going to be a last minute on the brakes. It's going to be who can make it work, and a big look on the inside. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done, and Oliver Brooks lined himself up for the long right-hander just to carry the momentum. It's all about where you position yourself out on the circuit here, and we're getting to see it shown in bucketfuls. But while these two start to fight it out, they are closing a little bit of time to the huge train ahead of George Reynolds, Clancy Garvin, Jose Sierra, Lance Campbell, who are fighting out with one another. And once they hook that train, it's going to be a monster of a difficult pass, because wherever you go, you're going to land up getting drawn into a battle with not a lot of room to get it done and dusted. Let's take a look. This is one of the McLarens running into a bit of a problem here. It's the 21. Oh, hard impact against the wall. Jason Holland, another hard impact, and that's pretty much it, done, dusted. The Wall of Champions claims yet another, and Jason Holland finds himself one of the lives knocked against the wall. Mark Stewart once again trying to attack Oliver Brooks. He gets a solid run into the hairpin, but just not able to get onto the loud pedal quick enough, as we do see Jamie MacArthur suddenly getting pulled into the fight. Joe Twan Antwi has come in an absolute charge. Zachary Clements and Kobe Brooks trying to also close up the gap as well. Incredible fighting. One car currently in the pits, and I think possibly a retirement. But Sega, an absolute incredible start. But these drivers are really trying to find the pass on the knife's edge.
Absolutely nothing is over yet, as every single one of them is battling for bragging rights, whether it's for their country or whether it's just for breaking Bad GT3 bragging rights. Everybody seems to be wanting to leave it all on the line at a track with historic roots. They don't call it the Wall of Champions because a bunch of jabronis have crashed into it. They call it the Wall of Champions because none other than the greatest drivers of all time have made that critical mistake. So making it yourself here in the simulator, well, it's just got to be a badge of honor now, doesn't it? Oliver Brooks up ahead now, ahead of Mark Stewart by just a nose hair coming into the chicane. Mark Stewart tried everything he could. The kitchen sink was definitely thrown at it, but to no avail. Two battle packs forming right now, the one in front including Mark Stewart and Oliver Brooks that we'll keep an eye on. And here we have Jamie MacArthur, Joe Twum Antwi, Zachary Clemens, and Kobe Brooks all in tow. Battle between DC Endurance and Kobe Brooks. The 333 is going to be for class.
Kobe going to be seeing what he can do to move up through the order and wanting to try and see if he can maximize the points here for the GT3 AM class. Kobe holds 6th in the championship, while Zachary holds 1st in the championship. And Zachary getting a very bad drive out of the Wall of Champions, the final corner, and he gets lined up as Kobe looks to get the pass down the 333 around the outside. It's going to be a big lunge on the inside for Zachary to get that pass done and managed to slow it right up on the apex, but both of them costing each other time as Joe Twan Antwi moves on forward against Jamie MacArthur. The two starting to put a little bit of pressure on one another, and Joe not holding back. Jamie having to keep an eye on the mirrors, trying to see what he can do. once again, he's fighting a little bit out of position as Joe gets really into the wall there. A little bit of side swipe, leaving a bit of red up against the Onco barrier. And I think he was trying to go for a gap, but unfortunately just was running out. And now needs to hunt down Jamie MacArthur, try and get that pass done and dusted. You have to put your nose forward, try and move him off the apex, try and make a critical error coming into play, as this circuit is an incredibly hard track to get past. And we did also see in that passing shot, Lance Campbell under pressure. There is fights up and down through the order. It's a big coming together. Joe Tuan Antwi getting into the door of Jamie MacArthur, who looked like he slowed it down a bit too much, went out wide, opened up a bit of room. Joe went for it, and then it was just a sudden closure. Now drag race between the two as the big Chev trying to get the advantage into the final two corners. Jamie MacArthur hops over the curbs, really sending it flying, and tries to battle back. That Porsche is not done just as yet, but showing a few battle scars out on circuit. Jamie hopes to get the inside line. He's going to go late on the anchors, swings it in through the left, and it's going to be the right hand, goes to Joe. Immediately, Zachary put his nose in just to see if he can get a possibility to move up, as Kobe Brooks is closing up on him. Absolutely mental racing out there. But Jamie MacArthur taking a few curbs a little too hard, costing him time, and he's also slowed up, and that's allowed Zachary to get the pass. I wonder if he had a slowdown that went and cost him a bit of time. He had to come off the throttle and lost out the run to Joe, but also allowed the likes of Zachary to move forward. Now Kobe Brooks has got a bit of a problem because Jamie MacArthur splits himself and Zachary for that first place. It is now a key factor on whether Jamie can be moved out the way quickly or whether Jamie can move up the track and try and clear Zachary on the charge. Big look around the outside, slowing up very slow into the hairpin. A little bit of a nudge there as Kobe didn't expect Zachary to be on a stellar run, but Jamie MacArthur a little too slow into the hairpin. That allowed Kobe just to put that little bit of a nudge against the rear of the Porsche. But now Jamie's going to have the run down the straightaway, hoping to get a solid drive heading into the final two corners. He pulls back into the slipstream, mounts over the curbs, a little bit easier this time, but Kobe under pressure to try and move forward as Zachary once again opens up that little bit of room, and it's going to be all eyes for the prize. Jamie MacArthur not having an easy time here, and this is where the consideration of that pit stop is going to come into play for the drivers. When do you get your car into the pits to get it done, get it sorted, and carry on with your race? Because you're caught in some major traffic out there.
When do you call it quits is the question. I think the answer for these drivers is never back down, never what? That's right, never give up. That's right. Thank you very much for having my back on that one, Stephen Koenig. Much appreciated. Moving swiftly on, though, Lance Campbell leads Jose Sierra and Clancy Garvin. And the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th is just a second behind LYD from Odyssey Motorsports in the 888. Just up the road, but the cork in the bottle being Lance Campbell in the AMG, currently running in 4th.
Been an interesting time to see what the drivers are going to do. Now, I've been trying to work out when exactly these drivers are going to pit. So we've seen drivers go incredibly long into the race to try and sort themselves out. We've seen a split at the halfway mark. We've also seen the undercuts of a try pull in the pits and get going as early as possible. But when you're into fights like this, if you take a look at Lance Campbell and the likes of Jose Sierra, the two of them are nose to tail. And you've got to try and figure out, are you losing too much time being stuck in traffic? Do you get your pit stop out of the way, get yourself refueled and try get yourself back into clear air? Or do you keep mounting the pressure, keep mounting the charge with higher risk of making a mistake? Or the car ahead or behind you making a mistake? Sometimes you're involved in someone else's accident instead of your own. For Jose Sierra, he can't afford that right now. He needs to try and keep moving up through the order as he wants to try and get up into the top 3. He wants that solid charge. He's been on the cusp of grabbing the podium a few times. He's been really up this season, but just hasn't found that absolute in the run. As we do have Clancy Gavin, who's trying everything he can to move on forward. Currently down in 6th position, but second in the championship. He needs to move up the order. He needs to try and secure his spot. Otherwise, he's risking that championship slipping out. As Lance Campbell's in 4th, Javi Sierra's in 3rd, LaShawn Young-Dilworth is in 5th. They're all close in points to Clancy, and he'll have to keep a very close eye on where those competitors are, especially since he wants to make a solid impact in the championship. It's not quite on Corey Jones, but he still wants to be close enough that if Corey runs into an issue, he's able to capitalize and go for the win. However, this is the battle he's stuck behind because he can't find a way through it. Jamie MacArthur gets ahead of Zachary Clemens, and it's going to be Kobe Brooks side by side. Oh, little touch into the dirt there. Kobe's able to save it, nearly catching into the side of the Acura, but Kobe manages to pull it back, and Zachary managing to open up the gap a little bit more. Jamie MacArthur now trying to check out of the fight as quick as he can to join up with the rest of the train. But the question comes down for the AM drivers. Who is going to break under pressure? Is it going to be Clemens? Is it going to be Brooks? Or is Owen Huffington, who's a little bit further down, 17th overall, possibly got a chance here if these two get tangled up in a bit of a mess? Zachary, hoping to keep a stellar drive, will need to really push on forward as Lance Campbell keeps the pressure on, trying to get ahead, and sees LaShawn Young-Dilworth just ahead of him, wanting to draw him in a little bit closer. Kurt Moss also not too far away from the bunch as they continue on. The only driver that is pretty much in the keen space and away from everyone is Corey Jones, just focusing on lap times. For everyone else, well, the pressure is mounting and it's getting extremely hot out on track in these cars, and oh, straight over the bumps as Lance Campbell really taking the charge. Those sausage curbs landing up, being eaten by the AMG, and it was also shared by Jose Sierra, who's running right onto the same lines, nose to tail. He does not want to split apart there. Essentially, that AMG has got a tow bar and it's dragging the trailer of Jose Sierra at the moment.
This is absolutely what you pay to see, folks, in real life motorsports, in simulators. They go wheel to wheel. Joe Tum Antwi's trying to get one done on Mark Stewart. Stewart's throwing everything he can at Joe Twum Antwi, but to no avail. He can't pull out the stops under the Montreal banner. That Corvette keeps grazing that wall over and over again. Surprised it's not, well, it is missing a right mirror.
Picking up a little bit of damage out there and will be concentrating on getting closer. Been flirting with the walls a little bit too much, and some might say you're going to flirt once too many and land up catching it a little bit harder, like Jason Holland had a little bit earlier in the race. But with that being said, you've got to push the limits. You've got to see what you can do to move forward. It's critical to stay in for the fights. And Oliver Brooks holds on for second place. Joe finds himself in third. He needs to keep that run. But now for Mark, this is where the strategy comes in, because he can react if others pit, or he can pit himself. And everyone in front can't react. They will have to see what they can do. You can see Mark mounting over the curbs in the background, but Joe on a solid charge closes up at a rate of knots to Oliver Brooks, who needs to try and hold on to the lead of the race. Joe looks for the inside, couldn't take the stab at it, but tries to gear himself up out of turn 2 into turn 3, really giving it a hard charge all the way through. Now into the slipstream, pulls himself along, but just not enough time to get past Oliver Brooks in that Ferrari. He's going to have to prioritize on corner exit just to really make it work to get that pass. We've seen him go for the hairpin a couple of times in the previous laps. I think Joe is going to try it once again to go for the hairpin right at the end of the circuit before the long straightaway. Try and get a solid exit out of there, get ahead of Oliver Brooks, under braking? Well, it's now going to be it. Under the bridge, onto the brakes. A very difficult part of the course, as you can land up losing a lot of time. You actually want to brake just as you get under that bridge and carry on. If you brake a little bit too early, you will land up losing too much time. A little too late, you just fall off the circuit and lose out time, as Zachary once again trying to hold the line, really doing everything he can against Kobe Brooks. But Kobe taking over the lead of the race for the AM division. Zachary trying his luck, and you can see right to the fringes of the circuit, bits of dirt and grass being kicked up by these cars as they hunt down the opportunity. 37 minutes left in for round 5 of the Braking Bad Pushing Limits GT3, and we still got a solid fight. LaShawn Young-Dilworth, 3rd overall, now under pressure as Lance Campbell's brought the entire party to him. Jose Sierra going to be going and saying thank you very much to this, as Clancy Galvin also hangs into the pack. So for the battle in 3rd, we have got an ongoing 4-car train, each looking for their opportunity and each not giving a single inch, as Lance Campbell sunk it in a little too deep. That's going to be Jose Sierra getting the run. He's got the drag race, and now it's going to be power all the way through. Jose managing to move forward and just gets ahead, as we did see Clancy try to box in. Lance Campbell couldn't get it done, and Lance has lost it.
Lance Campbell getting on the loud pedal there. Just ends up losing it. I think you can see the ferocity through the helmet there, as he was not too pleased with that overtake that snapped on him. But ends poorly there for Lance Campbell, the driver who was running very positively throughout this event, and a critical mistake in the first half of it will take him out.
Going to throw him down a little bit, but you got to figure out what you need to do, as Jamie MacArthur actually landed up going into pit lane and got a little bit of damage to his car. So MacArthur not even having a good time out there in the Porsche. However, back up to the sharp end of the field. Jose Sierra, LaShawn Young-Dilworth, and Clancy Galvin now find each other. The 3 Ferraris, the 3 Musketeers, now looking to fight out that little bit more. The Odyssey Motorsports keeping the charge, as LaShawn Young-Dilworth looking to carry the championship forward. 2nd in the Drivers' Championship for the GT3 Pro, but also trying to hold on for the team championship, as they are 3rd place. Technically gifted Odyssey Motorsports holds on to 3rd. A solid run here today will move them up into 2nd place, as Carl Smith and Carl Dersham unfortunately not finding themselves in any capability to defend that 2nd place here tonight. But with that being said, do not count out Clancy Galvin, who was running extremely quick in the early stages of the race and wanting to really make it work out in for the championship. As Jose Sierra holds on for 7th in the championship, he will keep tight as possible to LaShawn Young-Dilworth, who runs 5th in the championship. You can see LaShawn moves to the left-hand side, but it's going to be Jose Sierra who kept it pinned towards the right, showing no interest in getting that position. He's just keeping his racing line, keeping it consistent, and constantly sitting in the mirrors, forcing LaShawn to wonder, where is the strike going to happen? When is it going to happen? And especially if Jose Sierra gets that strike in, gets that pass, puts his nose forward, he knows that Clancy's going to follow in behind, and that train is going to just come past him. It's going to be like a NASCAR line on the inside, where you just can't fight back, and you're left in the lurch here at Gilles Villeneuve. However, it is a tough circuit, as we keep saying, to go and get a pass done. It's easy to just get too much onto the loud pedal and lose the rear end of the car, as we saw with Lance Campbell a little bit earlier, having that exact problem. A big run for the likes of Jose Sierra, as he peers to the right-hand side, trying to just sit in that right-hand mirror constantly, down on the anchors as they came under the bridge. But it's going to be Clancy once again getting a drive of note as he aims towards the hairpin. These three Ferraris are keeping each other busy with Jose Sierra, LaShawn Young-Dilworth, Clancy Gavin, but that's also allowing George Reynolds to come in for the party as well. And don't count out, there's Javi Sierra, who will also be now finding a little bit of time here. And also, you can't count out one driver that has got the most between his teeth right now, Lance Campbell, who will start to try and bring himself a bit closer. We're starting to see those pit stops kicking into play. Kobe Brooks has gone through the pits. Charles Shanks has gone through the pits. Joe Antwi has found himself into the pits. Jamie MacArthur found himself into the pits. Russell Lane and Jason Holland. However, it is a still solid run for competitors at the moment. Our top 15 yet to find themselves going down pit lane, but will be considering their options of what they can do to try and move up through the order as we're nearing the halfway point of this race. Your thoughts so far on this incredible 3-horse race we got in front of us?
It's just left me speechless, to be honest with you. Jaw's been left on the floor. LYD's defense back. Lance Campbell making a critical mistake, seeing a little bit of blood in the water, and perhaps going for a bite that was a little bit bigger than he was at the end of the evening. But he's not down and out yet, still running in 8th position overall, 7th for the category. He's still going to get himself a good haul of points for the evening. But right here, Jose Sierra, Clancy Garvin, and LaShawn Young-Dilworth sure are dressed to impress, aren't they?
Going and putting on an absolute show, and the more they trip up over each other, the more it's just going to allow the likes of George Reynolds and Javi Sierra to close in, Lance Campbell as well. But we've also got to touch on to what is going to be the big plan for each of these drivers. You're constantly fighting out, you're constantly applying that little bit of pressure, but you're starting to lose time to Kurt Moss up ahead, now managing to open up the gap nearly 7.8 seconds by the end of this lap. And Kurt Moss, once again, just going and keeping consistent. While the three fight it out, it's going to slow them up and bring them into the clutches of everyone behind. However, they will lose track of that second place. LaShawn really mounting over the curves, trying to push it a little bit harder. And I'm wanting to touch on something a little bit more of a concern out on the track, and that is track limits coming into play. Something that all these drivers want to try and avoid as much as possible. You don't want to pick up those incident points that can cost you an unnecessary drive through and find you falling down the order. That is going to be the main critical point. You're allowed 17 X's, then every 8 after that will be another drive through, and you will be disqualified at 32 points. So you've got to be careful in terms of your slides. That picks up a 2, touch onto the grass is a 1X, and any sort of car contact will bring up a 4X. And at 17, you'll blink and you'll get it. As Jose Sierra sends it down the inside of LaShawn. They're both going side by side. LaShawn goes out too wide, and immediately Clancy Garvin says thank you very much. He gets the run on both of them, continues out the charge, gets right behind Jose Sierra, and LaShawn now stuck on the outside. He can't come back into the train. He's trying to fight as much as possible. A big run, as you do see Jose cut across back to the racing line. Oh, and contact and down to the straight. LaShawn opting, I don't think voluntarily, sent into the pit lane. I think it was a suggestion that was put in there and will bail down the order. And, well, we're wondering about the pit stops. Maybe just with a little bit of a heave-ho has just changed the entire race for LaShawn, and now opting to try and get himself sorted out.
Mark Stewart still wrestling with Oliver Brooks now in their battle for 2nd and 3rd in the category. George Reynolds is absolutely performing out of his skin right now. 9.5 seconds in front of Brooks.
Solid run for each competitor. Everyone trying their luck. Mark Stewart trying to see if he can keep in for the fight. Looking at that second place that is just ahead of him, and will be tantalized to just try and close up the gap. 28 minutes to go, and we are seeing more and more pit stops coming into play. Do want to point out, top 10 driver that's gone in and out through the pits. LaShawn Young-Dilworth finds himself in 10th position. and is back out on circuit. He was stopped for 17 seconds, which was just a bit of fuel in the tank, but now he's got a clear track ahead of him and not fighting out with any of the drivers. This is going to be an interesting time for him if he can keep up the drive, if he can keep getting into those 135s as a consistent lap time. Well, he's in the pound seat to actually move up through the order. A possible undercut to come into play, especially while the others land up tripping themselves. And it's a slowdown for Jose Sierra as we saw him pull to the left-hand side. It's going to be a tough time for him as George Reynolds clears on by. Clancy Galvin clears on by. Jose Sierra got an absolute hammer with that slowdown. And that's just allowed Harvey to close up the gap behind him as well. So Jose falling down the order. And we'll see his brother now in the mix with him. But right behind both of the Sierra brothers is the one, the only, Lance Campbell. Have you ever seen an angry Canadian? Well, you're about to see one lying in 7th position overall and does see the two Puerto Rican drivers just ahead. Lance, a little bit frustrated with the mistake early on in the race, will want to try and reclaim his spots, but he's got to get past these two. Jose and Harvey, they tend to fight with one another out on track, but they will make life a little bit difficult for others. We've seen them work with each other. We go back to Hockenheim, where they were assisting one another, but also landed up towards the end of that race, going and trying to push each other into a mistake. And this is where that little bit of family rivalry comes into play. But I've got a funny feeling they're going to make life a little bit more interesting for Lance Campbell while they're trying to push forward to George Reynolds. Kurt Moss into the pits now, getting his pit stop done and dusted. James Lungevan finds himself into the pits. Critical moves being made here as both Sierras carry on forward. It is going to be a solid charge. Lance swings the tail right by the wall of champions, and you can see how these drivers are just giving it everything they can to try and march on through the order. Oliver Brooks just still in pit lane. Kurt Moss still in pit lane as he loses out the run, and it's now up to the rest of the field. Corey Jones, Clancy Galvin, George Reynolds hold on to the top 3 overall and carry on moving forward. Jose Sierra and Harvey Sierra, Lance Campbell, Mark Stewart round out your top 7. Kurt Moss just comes out of the pits. He finds himself in 8th position, and it's LaShawn Young-Dilworth who's going to move up over Oliver Brooks up into 9th position. He's got clear road ahead of him, and slowly but surely starting to tick on forward. It was a 7-second gap from the likes of our second place Kurt Moss to the rest of the fighting trio in 3rd. He now finds himself leading out in 8th position. LaShawn Young-Dilworth 10 seconds behind, but will be trying to close up that gap at a rate of knots. And ultimately, it's going to be who can keep it all together. Reynolds, Stewart, Brooks hold on to the top 3 for the Pro-Am. Huffington, Brooks, and Clemens hold on to the top 3 of the GT3 Am class. For the pros, it's Jones, Galvin, and likes of Jose Sierra continues on that charge. Absolutely incredible racing thus far, and Gilles Villeneuve has always been a track that tests drivers. We did see George Reynolds go into the pits, and something we've got to point out, it's very easy to be suckered into the pits when you've got a tunnel vision looking at the rear tail lights of your competitor and they land up going down in pit lane, but you are actually gearing for the corner. You land up missing your brake marker. You can see every driver just gives that little bit of space and leans to the right just to avoid, just in case of the cars ahead of them, usually braking a little bit later. But a solid run for Jose Sierra, who finds himself up into 3rd place. Harvey losing a little bit of ground, and we did see Lance Campbell falling back. Lance, I think, has gone through a major part of life of his tires and is starting to feel that little bit of understeer, having to really just try and cool things down, refocus, re-aim his eyes forward, and looking to move back into the battles. As we see the pit stops coming into play, so it's now down to our top 6 that are yet to do a pit stop, while the rest of the field have already ventured through the pits.
Definitely. As we get into the final 20 minutes of this event, the fuel window has definitely come down. It has dwindled down to the final fumes that are available to the drivers. Now Corey Jones, who's expunged the final bit of fuel available to him, brought to you by VP Racing, of course, decides it's time to come down pit road. Same can be said for none other than Jose Sierra, leapfrogging Lance Campbell, coming in the pit lane.
Harvey Sierra staying out to go an extra lap up in the fight. So Harvey's not giving up this fight. He's going to try and really move on forward. But going and forcing Jose and Lance to dive into the pits. Mark Stewart into the pits as well, trying to get sorted out. An interesting call coming in. Clancy Garvin continues to go long. Harvey Sierra goes long into the race as well. Owen Huffington, who leads out the GT3 AM class, is yet to go into the pits, and he's trying to stretch that tank out a little bit further. Great stop coming in for Jose as he exits pit lane. He was stopped for 17.8 seconds and will be finding himself slipping down the order into fourth. LaShawn Young-Dilworth will go and get a little bit of a run ahead of him. Lance Campbell a little far behind to try and see if he can make a bit of time out there, but a solid run from each of these competitors, trying to see what they can do to stick it in for a little bit longer into this race. Everyone wanting to make it work at the moment, and Jesse Chase will now see in his mirrors the fight behind him. It is LaShawn Young-Dilworth, Jose Sierra, the two fighting Ferraris, back on track, finding themselves into this fight. And for Jesse, it's going to be, right, I'm going to hold my line. You chaps need to try and figure out how to get around me without costing myself some time, because I'm trying to move forward, but also into the hairpin. Don't foul up the Mercedes, as LaShawn Young-Dilworth, keeping it tight off the apex, got a solid drive, and that just allowed a little bit of a defense to Jose Sierra. Clancy Galvin and Harvey Sierra now into the pits. Now we'll see that Corey Jones, Kurt Moss, LaShawn Young-Dilworth, Jose Sierra, all starting to mount a charge, will be going and looking to move up through the order. So Corey retakes the lead of the race. Kurt Moss retakes second place. LaShawn Young-Dilworth looking to retake third, but with Jose Sierra flat on the heels of it, giving a hard push. It's going to be an interesting time to see if Harvey Sierra can come out of the pits and get onto the back of this train to try and mount a charge back as well. LaShawn started out in third, got an incredible drive, and now finds himself trying to really move up the order, but having a definite fight out there to see what he can do. Unfortunately for Harvey Sierra, a little bit further back from this fighting duo, as Jose once again tries to get that pass on the inside, try to put his nose under, but just couldn't lift the likes of LaShawn off the apex. And we'll have to think what's going to be next to do it. Puerto Rican driver giving everything he can, late on the anchors, tries to send through, couldn't quite get it done, and now LaShawn going and backing up a little bit. These two starting to lose time, and the best way to see it, take a look at Harvey Sierra and Lance Campbell, how much time they making up to the fighting duo. They closing up at a rate of knots here. It went from 2 seconds between them. Now Lance Campbell trying to see if he can close up to Harvey Sierra from 2.8 seconds now to 2.7 seconds, and it's just tumbling down. The more that Jose takes a stab and can't get it done, and the more that LaShawn has to go on defense, the more it's starting to reel them back into the crowd and make life a little bit more interesting as we get into the closing stages of this race. And each of the drivers starting to feel that pressure, everyone pushing a little bit harder. The question comes down, who can cope with the pressure? Whether you're attacking or defending, it takes one mistake and you find out the walls of Montreal are not as forgiving as its people.
Holy smokes, this battle right here between Jose Sierra and LaShawn Young-Dilworth keeps on providing us with excellent entertainment. Nose to tail coming through the first chicane, and now they become separated to give ourselves a little bit of a break. Stephen Koenig doing all of the commentary tonight and the heavy lifting, of course, and doing a great job, as always, keeping up with all of the action that the Braking Bad GT3 League continues to provide for us.
Absolutely incredible stuff. Round 5 and it's just about on its way out. Let's take a look. Lance Campbell starting to close up to Harvey Sierra. Jose still not able to find on by, but Lance is on the charge here, and from fighting it out in the front of the pros, now finds himself a little down the order, 7th overall in, well, it's running 7th in his class and 7th overall, wanting to try and move up through the order. Right behind them, they've got George Reynolds, who's trying to close up the gap. Reynolds holding on to the lead for the GT3 Pro-Am. It is Stewart and Brooks holding on for second and third. It's Kobe Brooks that holds on for lead ahead of Clemens and Huffington, holding in for the GT3. But Lance Campbell, interesting enough, Sector 2 and Sector 3, he's quick. Sector 1, and especially coming out of the final corner, he loses ample amount of time to the rest of the field, almost like the Mercedes is becoming a little bit more of a mission to slug around the circuit. He's having to throw the car in, get it to over-rotate. Almost he's overdriving the car, and every time he closes that distance, just fouls up his drive on the exit and loses out that run. Take a look, especially heading out of Sector 2 here. Much closer to Harvey Sierra. He's gone right onto the back of him, trying to see if he can go for the attack, but when he comes out of the final two corners, take a look at the big difference. He's just not finding that grip underneath him, and I think there's a little bit of that confidence that's been taken away with the car snapping underneath him. We did see Harvey catch the wall on the way through as he's trying to move on forward, but I wonder if Lance Campbell is a little bit more wary of the tail of that car, a little bit more wary on it might snap underneath him, and it might have been something he's not used to, a snap that was just so arbitrary and you can't replicate it. You can't figure out when that rear is going to come out underneath you, and will be that concerning factor as both Ferraris come flying out to the final corner. And that is a solid run for Dilworth. Oof, Lance catching the wall again.
Yeah, Jose, I think that was actually Javi Sierra catching the wall there, clattering up against it and losing ground now to Lance Campbell, who's now within half a second.
An interesting call coming in for both drivers out behind, but they've fouled each other up enough that these two have managed to get away. Sean Young-Dilworth having to get elbows out racing here. Now 4 seconds adrift from Clancy Galvin. That third place, a little too far out of reach. And with Jose Sierra constantly keeping the pressure on, it's going to be a mounting charge to try and move forward. It's just one of these drivers need to give. One of them has to go and break. With both drivers constantly attacking and defending, they're fouling each other up, and they're going to have to think, right, either we're going to get past one another, or this is just putting a tinfoil hat on, working together to try and move up through the order. As you can see, Jose is quite quick into the hairpin, but just can't get the drive out of it. They're evenly matched. If the two can stop focusing on trying to get the pass and trying to defend, and rather set their eyes forward, they will make up that time to Clancy, who hasn't got an easy run nonetheless. But I don't think Jose is willing to go and keep it all together behind the Odyssey Motorsport. He wants to try and get that mounting charge. He wants to clear on through and see where it's going to go, as they do come flying past the pit lane yet again, putting yet another lap on the board. Lap 29 out of the predicted 37 laps are going to be done by our leader, Corey Jones, who is looking to take yet another win to make it 5 out of 5 races. Well, he's unaware of the battles happening behind him, keeping it cool, calm, and collected, and having a solid run nonetheless. Kurt Moss hangs on second place, 8.9 seconds behind. And these drivers know you've got to keep your foot on the throttle. The moment you do take a little bit of a rest, and for some drivers, coming off the gas can land up in more of a bigger mistake coming into play. And a bit of an interesting factor there, Corey Jones showing exactly what a triple screen setup or a VR setup has the advantage. That hairpin, looking over to the right hand side to spot the later apex through is absolutely handy for any single screen user. Unless you're running a 49 or a 50-inch ultra wide, you can't see that apex. You find it very, very difficult, and you gotta have to guess your way through, sometimes overrunning it by quite a mile. And it's just comes down to the type of gear that drivers are using, and some advantages going one way or the other. That being said, though, you still get into some great battles like what we see here with Lance Campbell and Javi Sierra, where even if you got triple screens, you're not caring about that. You're looking out one specific part. You're looking at the back of the McLaren taillights if you're Lance, or if you're the likes of Javi, you're keeping an eye on the mirror and you're keeping an eye. Entrances, apexes, go, as you don't want this big Mercedes to hunt you down and get that pass. For Lance, it's the Canadian way to move on forward, and Javi Sierra is being an absolute blockade of it. Both have kissed the wall here at Montreal, here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, both trying their absolute best to stay in for the fight, but not going and yielding from any battle at the moment. They're wanting to try and make it work. We also got to fight a little bit further back. Justin Welsh, Charles Shanks, and Zachary Clemens find themselves also into a bit of a brawl. The three-way duel, the two McLarens and the Acura NSX continuing the charge. For the likes of Justin Welsh, he's doing everything he can to hold on to that fourth place as Charles wants to try and take it away, as Zachary finds himself second in class, 16 seconds behind Kobe Brooks, who holds the lead for the AM. And Zachary having to just sit and wait and watch these two go and give it everything he can. All three running onto the grass and picking up a point there. Not going to be an easy one as Zachary trying to keep it close. Charles looks down the inside. Couldn't quite get the pass on Justin, who slammed the door shut, locked the door and threw away the key. And Charles gets a big moment coming out of the right-hander. Zachary's going to try and come at him around the outside. And what a save from Charles late onto the brakes, sending it through. Little bit of a clatter over the sausage curbs, and Zachary was able to put his nose slightly forward, but the McLaren does have the top end advantage. Side by side, utilizing that side draft, hitting into the hairpin, late on the anchors, sends it through. And Charles retakes that 13th overall, but Zachary trying to get the drive on the exit, couldn't quite get it done. And now it's going to be Justin Welsh with a huge smile on his face. These two brawl it out against one another, now costing each other time here. And Zachary pushing on forward, really kept a little bit of a assistance down the straight away. Just that, you go buddy, that hand on the back to try and move the train forward to catch up to Justin Welsh. That little bit of a heave-ho situation may have helped them only for a little bit, as Justin Welsh has been making a little bit of errors on the corner exits. Lance Campbell now having a look at Javi Sierra, trying to see if he could get past. Couldn't quite get through on the hairpin. Javi runs out wide, gets on the power as loud as possible, and really trying to see what he can do. And that is just bringing in a solid fight with George Reynolds starting to close up in the shed. Absolutely mounting a charge, leads out the GT3 Pro-Am, but does want to throw his hand into the ring here. What better way to not only win your class, but also take the fight in towards the pro field, as Lance Campbell getting a far better drive off the exit of the final corner. Harvey guards the inside line. It's going to be a big run into turn one here, and a solid look from all three drivers trying out their luck. And oh, very, very close for George Reynolds. Nearly into the back of Lance Campbell's rear axle. Nearly having a moment there. And I think both George and Lance suddenly took a deep breath, knowing that this was going to be either we make it or we both breaking it. And Javi Sierra hoping for the two to trip over one another. But now comes in the factor. It's going to be a hard charge. Zachary on board with him in the Acura, closes up and just lifting off a little bit early, trying to force Charles into a bit of a mistake, letting him brake a little bit later, trying to feed in that little bit of going a little bit later on the brakes and clatter into the wall of champions, or let me by. As Zachary looks down the inside, he's trying to get that pass done and dusted. He does get the overcut, sends his way through, gets a solid apex, a solid drive, and Charles now finds himself caught behind the Acura NSX, that can now actually help him catch up to Justin Welsh. These two can work with one another. It's going to be an interesting time indeed. A little bit further up the road, LaShawn Young-Dilworth keeping Jose Sierra. These two Ferraris have been connected to each other at the hip, now finding themselves going that little bit further into the race, trying to see who will come out the best. And just behind them is the second of the Sierra brothers fighting out. Harvey, Lance Campbell, and Reynolds keeping each other busy as they move forward. So we have got battles upon battles upon battles here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And the only thing we know that's going to happen is there is going to be one driver crossing the line in first place. For everyone else, well, it's up in the air. And Lance Campbell picking up a go slow, unfortunately takes him out of the fight. George Reynolds clears on through to go after Harvey, as Lance had to try and go and lose that slowdown, had to come off the power, and now all the hard work restarts to try and close up the gap. So this is absolutely incredible. With 7 minutes and 23 seconds to go, if you blink, you miss it. If you look away, it's gone. And if you get off the gas, you're miles behind. But Braking Bad GT3 for round 5 is putting on a stellar show. Doesn't matter where you are in the grid.
Agreed. Everywhere we seem to look, the drivers keep producing action. Every time we look away, more action keeps on being produced. LaShawn Young-Dilworth and Jose Sierra being the spawn of a couple of battles right now. George Reynolds trailing right now Javi Sierra. And don't forget about Zachary Clemens, because he's trying to catch up to Kobe Brooks.
Absolutely incredible driving, but as the laps tick on by, as the timer starts to fall down, it's going to get into the world of desperation. This is where the drivers start to look at that timer on the clock and saying, right, it's now I've got to push that a little bit harder. Now I've got to try and make it work. And this is where there's two stages in the race. You're either in autopilot mode, just trying to keep the rhythm of the circuit, or you're now in that little bit of a feisty situation. You're nipping at the heels for quite some time, and you're going to start making those risky moves, that 50-50 play, whether it's going to work out in your favor or might be that one risk too far. And in the immortal words of Ayrton Senna, if they're not going for the gap, you're not a race driver. Well, some of those drivers are going to be running to that very motto. For others, they're going to take a bit of caution, thinking about what is going to happen a little bit further down the road. What's going to happen to this race? Risk versus reward is the two words that are going to be running through the drivers' heads as they focus on the drive to move up through the order. And you can see how late the likes of Jose breaking into that hairpin. He can really climb onto the back, but just can't get the drive on LaShawn Young-Dilworth, who prioritizes his exit as Zachary tries to get the run on Justin Welsh. He gets it all hooked up. Welsh falls down the order, and now Charles Shanks sees a class position ahead of him. So Zachary has just fed Justin Welsh into the likes of Charles, and will be seeing an opportunity to move on forward for Justin Welsh. This is a nightmare, as he needs to try and figure out what can he do to hold the line and to try and hold his position. If he can put Zachary back in the middle of him, it's just a car in the way that can help defend a little bit more. But Shanks is not going to make this easy. He's going to keep that pressure on and try and move forward as much as possible as we head down into the next 4.5 minutes to go. This is where we need to see the drivers really put the hammer down, and really the mistakes are starting to become a little bit more shown. Zachary, you can see, very, very wide out of the corner. Just had to stay off the throttle as long as possible just to get the car to come around. That's going to allow Justin to close up the gap a little bit and see if he can try put that AM driver between the Pro-Am fight. And for Zachary, he does not want to have that happening. He wants to stay clear of them. LaShawn Young-Dilworth, Jose Sierra keeping the battle with one another. Absolutely nose to tail. Can't figure out the drive. Sierra was quicker on lap 31, 32, 33, and 34, but slower on lap 35. However, it is going to be a monster of a run for LaShawn Young-Dilworth to hold that fourth place. The concern of going for third is long since gone, but the concern of holding fourth at the moment is big. It's about trying to make it work here, trying to stay in for the fight, and constantly over the curbs you could see how Jose Sierra throwing caution to the winds and saying, well, Ferrari, you can put a new suspension back on the car after this race day. I'm going to use every inch of it and more, and let's see what the shocks can do. As he jumped over to the curbs, jumped over the sausage curbs, and you can see how hard he's having to really slam on the anchors as late as possible, really moving the brake bias to the nose of the car, trying to throw the nose in and then get the rear to rotate round, feeling that little bit of understeer, trying to figure out what he can do to just get the nose to pivot and the rest of the car to follow in the fight. LeSean, however, just not losing the gap, 0.5 of a second. Every time he thinks he gets that little bit of a drive, just loses out that little bit of time, and fourth place is uncertain. Corey Jones holds on to lead by 10 seconds ahead of likes of Kurt Moss. Clancy Gavin holds on to third place and keeps on going. He's got a little bit of breathing room, but can't come out of the throttle just as yet with 2 minutes and 26 seconds to go. Anything can happen. One misstep, one little late braking can find yourself either into the grass or into the wall, and as we've seen with a number of drivers, can quite easily land up with a slowdown that will throw you further down the pack. We also just saw and shot a little bit back George Reynolds and Javi Sierra. They keep in the fight between one another behind this little fighting duo. Absolutely incredible battles up and down through the order. Everyone trying their luck here, but with 1 minute and 56 seconds to go, it's game on. And I'm going to put Sego in the hot seat here. Sego, who do you think's going to get it? Is it going to be LeSean Young-Dilworth, or is it going to be Jose Sierra who's going to finish up in that fourth place spot?
I got to pick the guys from OMTV. LeSean Young-Dilworth is going to walk away with the victory in front of Jose Sierra tonight.
All right, well, it's been set now to see what he can do, as Jose Sierra is now dialing up the wick, constantly keeping the pressure on, looking towards the inside, trying to peer on through, and LeSean now trying to keep it all in check, absolutely flat on the gas, moving forward, trying everything he can. Can the two Ferraris give it one last shot to really make it work here tonight? Late on the anchors, and Jose absolutely getting the drive, but just not enough room. LeSean Young-Dilworth protecting that inside line. He's going to hold it all the way through into the hairpin, forcing Jose to go around the outside. Couldn't quite get it done. Late on the breakers, trying to come a little bit off the brakes early to see if he can just get that car to work out. Unfortunately, hairpin did not work out for him. Gunning down the straightaway though. Jose will try and pull himself along as we on to the final lap of the race. And these drivers now know it's time for everything or nothing. Throw caution to the wind. Get that pass on and try and see what you can do. For Jose, this is his make or break moment to try and move up through the order, and incredibly close. Both drivers are to the wall. A quick flash of the lights coming in. Jose going and giving a little bit of a signal then. One has to wonder, is that trying to gain the attention of LeSean Young-Dilworth to say, hey, listen, I'm on your back? Or is it a little bit of a, I'm not going to fight you for this one, maybe not having enough fuel in the tank? I would presume with being that close, I think it was more trying to just get him to look in the rearview mirrors and see if he can break that concentration just a little bit more. Late on the anchors, tried to throw it down the inside, couldn't get the pass done, had to look yet again, trying to feed the power through all the way. Jose Sierra trying to get the run on LeSean Young-Dilworth as they give it everything they can onto the back end of the track. Braking under the bridge, in through the right, in through the left. Jose Sierra tried to look for the inside, couldn't get that lift, and really gunning it down to the wire. This is coming down to who has got enough of it. Jose goes for the send, he baited the move. Can he get the pass? He puts the nose in on the inside, the two of them keeping side by side. Corey Jones takes a win yet tonight, but we keep in the fight for the fourth place battle as it's a drag race down to the wire. Jose Sierra, LeSean Young-Dilworth. LeSean gets the drive, but he's stuck on the wrong side of the circuit. It's going to be Jose who has the advantage if he can keep the nose on. It's going to be last to the late breakers, in through the right. LeSean has to go straight on. That's going to be Jose. Jose gets fourth place. LeSean has a slowdown right as he comes down to the wire. What a drive on his part. Absolutely incredible stuff. Wow, oh wow, George Reynolds takes a win in the Pro-Am ahead of Stewart in second place. And what a run for Oliver Brooks. It will be a stunning run. Kobe Brooks will take first place in the AM class with Zachary Clemens and Owen Huffington, but a overall victory and burning it down is the one and only Corey Jones. 5 out of 5 wins and having a stellar one there. When he's doing a burnout, he's not even smiling. Come on, Corey, put a smile on that dial. You got the victory ahead of Kurt Moss, and Clancy Gavin will take third here at Montreal. And what a race here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Oh, I think I'm out of air. I think I'm officially done for the night and definitely worn out after that one. What an incredible race.
What an incredible race from green to checkered flag. The drivers really gave us everything that they possibly could. It was absolutely phenomenal. Let's take a look at the overall results, though, and I'll make you do a little bit more work, Steven.
It's Corey Jones that took the victory with Kurt Moss in second place, and the likes of Clancy Garvin takes third. A stellar race for the pros. Jose Sierra finishes up in fourth, just ahead of LeSean Young-Dilworth. He had to slow down at the last. Harvey Sierra ahead of Lance Campbell and Jamie MacArthur, unfortunately retiring early on in this race after having his car smashed out of pieces. Taking a look to the Pro-Am, it's George Reynolds and Mark Stewart holding on to second place. Oliver Brooks will take up that third place spot. Charles Shanks got the better hand ahead of Justin Walsh. James Langevin gets a solid run. Unfortunately, Joe-Tuan Antwi finds himself 23 laps out of the race after a retirement. And Jason Holland, who finds himself out of the running after a hard impact into the wall, retired down in 8th position in class. Moving on to our AM class for the GT3s here in the Braking Bad. It was Kobe Brooks who took the victory. Zachary brings the Acura NSX over to second place, with Owen Huffington taking third place here tonight. Jesse Chase finishes up on the lead lap, and Russell Lane 25 laps down, but did see the checkered flag. Didn't see the checkered flag, unfortunately, was 25 laps out, especially after a bit of damage. So a rough race for some, a great race for others, a whole lot of great racing. And man, oh man, Gilles Villeneuve usually is a circuit that keeps drivers a little bit under wraps, taking a little bit of caution. But here tonight, we got to see drivers throwing caution to the wind and having an incredible race up and down through the order.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it and talk to our class winners, shall we? We already have the likes of Kobe Brooks in the broadcast booth waiting on George Reynolds, but I'll go ahead and take this one. Kobe Brooks, lovely to hear from you. Lovely to hear from you, Kobe Brooks. Lovely to hear from you. How about that drive tonight? And pretty exciting race. I feel like no one got a moment of reprieve. Maybe you feel differently about your race in the 333. Talk to us about how it went for you tonight.
Yeah, honestly, it was a great race. This track it gets you in a rhythm once you start getting used to where the chicanes are. My first stint, I was following Zach and a few other drivers, and it was hectic. I'm passing when people make mistakes, then I make a mistake. We're flip-flopping the whole way. Then somebody spins out, and I pick up some damage, and then my race just gets flipped on its head. I had to go in, pit, take my one fast repair. Thankfully, it was on a lap where I could fill up all the way and just make it to the end. That really just... That changed the whole scope of my race, because then I was just kind of alone, vibing, using the practice that I got with the Odyssey Motorsports team.
Speaking of practice with the OMTV crew, I mean, how do you guys divide your time between everything that goes on at West Coast Sim Racing, between Enduroverse, and now this at Braking Bad? And I have a feeling like I'll see you guys tomorrow as well at HPR. So how do you divide up your time?
You know, that's an amazing question. I think when the team eats, breathes, and sleeps sim racing, you got all the time in the world to practice and prepare for all these events. I mean, you see on Monday nights, Jeffrey, he's going to shine. He's going to go out and win West Coast Sim Racing. You go out to Full Throttle and other leagues, everybody's showing out. It's because we love this. And I would have cursed, but I'm going to respect the space here. I'm not going to curse. But we love this. You know what word I wanted to put there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the passion that fuels the Cavaliere Rampante to victory lane. Speaking of, who would you like to shout out and who would you like to thank here in victory lane, Kobe?
As always, my older brother, he got me again, but we're going to keep fighting until we get him. I said I was going to curse, but we're going to get that motherfucker one of these days. Obviously, shout out the Odyssey Motorsports team, Coach Jeffrey, Clancy for setting up the practice, Els for wrapping it all together, and Oliver for setting up the cars. As always, I got to end with shouting out my mom. She's the reason I'm here. Love her to death.
Thank you, Kobe, for supporting the Braking Bad GT3 League. Really appreciate you as always. Have a great night, brother, and stay safe out there.
Sir, you too. Thank you.
Next up, we'll go ahead and kidnap none other than Mr. George Reynolds. And we'll talk to George right up next. And George, do you have a copy pilot of the 114 Corvette? Man, oh man, talk to us about your race tonight and how it fared being out in front, so far in front that you're kind of punching above your weight class.
Oh man, that was a fun race. To be honest, this is the first time I saw the track yesterday, and I didn't even practice the pit entrance, so that was pretty tricky. Not gonna lie.
My good friend Mike Noss
It's a
would
lot
be
of fun,
very
though.
disappointed in you for not practicing those pit stops, but we won't let him know anything about that.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun. I wasn't expecting to be up that far above the grid. Just kind of put my head down, and just the car felt good tonight. Had a good setup. I tuned on it quite a bit last night for all my testing, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
It looked like a great race out there tonight. What were some of your highlights, or talk to us about some of your keys to success to getting this coveted win?
I figured, if I just stayed consistent and kept out of the walls and just, played it easy through the chicanes, I'd do okay. And the qualifying, that definitely helped, but then I got a poor jump off the start, and then I just tried to hang with those guys, but they're a little quicker, a little more consistent, so I couldn't quite, stay with them for the whole draft, but in the end, it was a lot of fun. I had a fun little battle there for the last couple laps, and yeah, I was stoked. It was fun.
On the victory tonight here in Montreal, who would you like to shout out and who would you like to thank, George?
I'd like to thank my family, my wife, for just letting me take the time to do this. I really enjoy it, and yeah, I love it. And thank you guys for what you're doing.
Thank you for supporting Braking Bad GT3 League. We really appreciate everything you guys do, from manning the grid to supporting the league. Have a great night and stay safe out there.
Awesome. Thank you. You too.
No problem. Last but not least, we're going to talk to the man, the myth, the legend. It is going to be none other than Mr. Corey Jones. As always, 5 for 5. Hat tricks are beyond us. I don't even know what they call what you're going after right now. The perfect season? Oh no. Oh no. Did I say it, Corey?
Well, it's not going to be a perfect season, as I do miss
That's
Magello,
right.
so unfortunately, not all of them. But hey, look, I'm just trying to get all the points that I can to save up for that, because I know I won't be getting any points at all for that race. So getting as many points as I can is definitely the way to go.
And what about Kurt Moss and LYD being hot on your heels for the qualifying session? That make you sweat a little bit about your car choice this season?
No, I had a bit of practice in the Mustang and everything like that. The massive sausage curbs and everything like that. I felt like the front engine cars were definitely going to shine around here, especially the Mustang. So I just knew if I hit my marks and everything the way I know I can drive, I'd be close to the front at least. And yeah, the whole stint and everything like that, the car felt amazing. Great setup. Ironically, it was the Misano setup that we did a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it felt amazing at the end. I was still able to do the same lap times as what I was at the start of the race. It was awesome.
Really fantastic drive for you, Corey, and the Get Good Endurance team on another victory. Who would you like to shout out and who would you like to thank tonight?
All the normal people that show out every week and everything like that. You guys putting on a good stream and everything. And yeah, carry over to next week and go for 6P.
Absolutely. Corey Jones, thank you very much for your continued support here at the Bad GT3 League and everything that you do behind the scenes. Have a great night, sir, and stay safe out there.
Thank you, you too, guys.
Wow, oh wow, what a race, what a time, and well, congratulations to not only our winners, but every single driver out there. So I've got to say, it's been an incredible race, and any last thoughts from your side before we say farewell to the beautiful sights and sounds of Montreal and move on to round 6 next week?
Just on behalf of the broadcast booth, I want to thank everybody in the virtual grandstands for their love and support tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications for when we go live next.
It's a great time, and a big shout out to all our sponsors here at the Braking Bad. A solid big thank you to JLW Construction, Akigo Law, Technically Gifted, and Maxim Motorsports for all the hard work of being behind the scenes. A big shout out to our partners here at Racer Nexus, Apex Sim Racing, Track Cams, for Gourmets, for all that incredible action behind the scenes. We look forward to moving on to August 29th, and we are going to see some incredible racing as the drivers will look to move forward. Road America, we head over for round 6. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be an exciting one, and folks, it's not one to miss. It is going to be the halfway point of our championship. So, as Sega said, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. Plenty of racing coming up this week here on Racer Nexus. And if you want to be part of the incredible family of Racer Nexus and get your sights and sounds broadcasted, get in touch with us here at our HQ at Racer Nexus. It's been the Braking Bad GT3 Pushing the Limit series. My name is Stephen Koenig, and big thank you Sega Bakshi on the mic and on the buttons. And folks, like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.